My name is Susan Jarboe, and with me today is Reverend Linda Burdett and also Linda Baker. So I may get them confused. You'll hear me say Linda, and they won't know who I'm talking with. Today, we're going to talk about change, and we all know that change is hard, and yet it's something we are compelled to do. But before we get into that subject, I'd like to open in prayer. Our Heavenly Parent, Lord, help us to study and apply your wisdom to our lives each day. Help us make this session a discipline of the mind and heart, empowered by your Spirit, transforming us each day more and more into your likeness. Thank you for your tender mercy and love, ever leading us onward. Amen. Many of you have heard of the Center for Action and Contemplation, and I'm a great fan of Richard Rohr and many of the things that he presents. And so what I want to talk about today is an article he posted some time ago called Evolving Faithfully. And we'll see what that means. He begins with a quote from Jesus: "I have come to cast fire upon the earth, and how I wish it were already blazing." Now, of course, that's metaphorical. And what Richard Rohr claims is that his faith is strengthened by knowing that everything changes. The inner process of change and growth is fundamental to everything, even our bodies. Having undergone several surgeries, cancer, and a heart attack, I've been consoled by the way my body takes care of itself over time. In religion, however, many people prefer magical, external, one-time transactions instead of this universal pattern of growth and healing, which always includes loss and renewal. This is the way that life perpetuates itself in ever new forms through various changes that can feel like death. This pattern disappoints and scares most of us, even many clergy who think death and resurrection is just a doctrinal statement about Jesus. Religions tend to idealize and protect the status quo, or the supposedly wonderful past. Yet what we now recognize is how they often focus on protecting their own power and privilege. God does not need our protecting. We often worship old things as substitutes for eternal things. Jesus strongly rejects this love of the past and one's private perfection, and he cleverly quotes Isaiah to do it. "In vain do they worship me, teaching merely human precepts as if they were doctrines." And that's from Matthew. Some Christians seem to think that God really is back there in the good old days of old time religion, when God was really God and everybody was happy and pure, as if that time ever existed. This leaves the present moment empty and hopeless, not to speak of the future. God keeps creating things from the inside out, so they are forever yearning, developing, growing, and changing for the good. This is the fire God has cast upon the earth, the generative force implanted in all living things, which grow both from within, because they are programmed for it, and from without, by taking in sun, food, and water. Picture Yahweh breathing into the soil that became Adam. That is the eternal pattern. God is still breathing into soil every moment. There is not a single discipline studied today that does not recognize change, development, growth, and some kind of evolving phenomenon. Psychology, cultural anthropology, history, physical sciences, philosophy, social studies, art, drama, music, on and on. But in theology's search for the real absolute, it made one fatal mistake. It imagined a static, unmoved mover, as Aristotelian philosophy called it, a solid substance sitting above somewhere. To fight transformative and evolutionary thinking is, for me, to fight the very core concept of faith. I have no certain knowledge of where this life might be fully or finally heading, but I can see what has already been revealed with great clarity, that life and knowledge always build on themselves, are cumulative, and are always moving outward toward an ever greater connection and discovery. There is no stopping this, and no returning to a static notion of reality. Richard Rohr is making a contrast between a static version of God and a dynamic version of God. And I'd like to know what my fellow panelists think of this concept or any other related concepts.
Well, so much to jump on in this, Susan. Um, there's a sign coming into the town that I'm living in right now that says, evolution is a lie. The devil deceiving us, pretending to be wisdom. And that's just the kind of thing that pops up here, there, in the next place, and in different belief systems. And it's always stymied me that anyone would think that God couldn't think of evolution, that evolution isn't a natural pathway, and the way that we grow and change and evolve. And I see that evolution as the natural path, an unstoppable path that we are all created to follow. You were talking about evolving faithfully, and my first thoughts were all about recovery for me. um I really did step away from one life. I was kind of torn away, and then had to keep chopping it off. Go back, go back, go back, like trying to get free of a jungle or something. And it was an evolution in faith, um and a very personal journey. I think that all of us go through those little evolutions. You also talked about the resurrection, which, I'm growing tomatoes, and it may seem very different, but an issue I've had growing tomatoes, I'm a tomato growing noob, although much wiser now, is you get this little stick and they say, here, plant this, it will become a tomato. So I did. I like tomatoes. I will plant it. Well, I didn't know you had to plant it in a 15-gallon jug. I'm doing pots because not only do I have tomatoes, I have puppies and they like to dig things up. So I'm planting them in pots, and I've had to replant them and replant them because tomatoes are full out trees and they're huge, and they grew from this little tiny stem. And I believe that we all do. And that is the for me, resurrection. When we cast aside childish things, we become adults. We become older people, which doesn't mean we can't still do childish things, but the way that we think, the way that we breathe, the way that we view life and make decisions is radically different as an adult than it was as a child because we have evolved in the world. A child may eat candy all day long and throw tantrums if they can't have more candy, but an adult might enjoy a little candy here and there, but they're going to make different decisions. And that in itself is a resurrection, an evolution. When we are no longer afraid of God or trying to please God or impress God with our goodness so that God will pay attention to us, and we recognize that there is no one greater or lesser than we are, that we are the beloved of God just because we are. It's a huge evolution in faith. And now I can live to be the very, very best me I can be, not because I want God to love me more, but because I know God's love is assured in all that I am and all that I do. It makes me want to be more. So there's my evolution of faith. I hope that made some kind of sense. And I'm going to be quiet because I want to know what Linda has to say.
So do
Well, I have a little bit of a different take on it. Change is okay with me as long as it changes the way I want it to. Okay. Seriously. I I I like change when it comes about through prayer. Um, we identify the things needing to be changed, and our prayers together change it for the better. We've got to be open to understand that everybody's energy, when you're praying for the same thing, is a little bit different, and it adds something that you want to happen, but in a more powerful way because it has a little bit of everybody's love into that change. That I've just learned that not too terribly long ago, but I see the power in prayer, and you can determine what you want it to change to, and you can pray for that. But the energy that the other people have in your prayer with you will make it even more powerful, more divine.
I really like that. Uh, Rohr, of course, was speaking to the individual and our own individual faith journeys. And in the idea of resurrection, we die daily, you could think. I like your application, Linda, to the community level. That what happens when you have people, a group who want to evolve and change faithfully. And what was it Jesus said? Whenever two or more are gathered in my name. And that's kind of what you're talking about. That's like the next step past what Rohr is saying here. Other comments, Reverend Linda? No? Linda B?
Lovely subject. It really a lot of food for thought.
Well,
thank you for bringing it up.
I think what I like about it is when you think of evolutionary change, and like you can see it if you look for it, like in
Yeah.
your garden. And it's another way, I think, to look at the world in terms of seeing everything in process rather than as static, all at the same time.
Yeah, animals, you see that. I have seen animals matures from the time that I was a little girl. You know, what dogs and cats do today, they weren't capable of doing that 70 years ago.
That's right.
Very true.
Yes. When you think of puppies' feet, how they trip all the time. Yes. Well, I think I'll bring us to a close here. For our listening audience, I hope you found something worthwhile and valuable in this conversation. And we always welcome comments and feedback. And you can put those comments in where it says to. Also, we welcome new ideas. If you have ideas or things that you would like us to talk about, maybe it's something that concerns you or that you're confused about, please let us know, because we can research the topic a little bit and then bring it back to everyone. If you know someone who might benefit from hearing what we talked about today with change and evolution, please pass the link on to them. Tell them about it. And you may subscribe. There's a place where you can hit a subscribe button and a notification bell, and that way you'll always know when something has been posted. Um, Finally, we are always looking for other people to join our panel. We like to have at least 3 people, which is what you see right now, but we really prefer to have more energy if possible. And you could consider joining our panel, maybe just for some discussions, or maybe you have something you want to present, and then the panel can respond to that. And we are very, very open to that. So just let us know. And at the end of this session, there's information about how to contact us. So thank you very much for joining us. We look forward to hearing from you in one way or another. And please take care and God bless you.
Thank you for joining us, and let's stay connected and grow in spirit. We are on Facebook. Search for Unity Church of El Cajon and follow us and like our posts. You can reach us on YouTube at Unity Church of El Cajon. Please subscribe to our channel, watch our videos, and leave comments which can help us improve. We are on the web at unityofelcajon.org. Email or call our church office to receive our weekly newsletters, which lists all of our activities and opportunities to learn and grow together.